So this PowerPoint is about Buddhism and Shinto in Japan and how they coexist with each other. I think it is a good example of religious coexistence, and we will begin with Buddhism. You see one of the biggest statues of the Buddha in Japan. And by the way, you can enter the inside of the statue. There is a door. But when I was there, it was raining, and I decided not to do it. So this is Daibutsu, the Great Buddha. The statue of the Great Buddha of Kamakura, or Kamakura Daibutsu in Japanese, was built in the mid-13th century. It is a bronze statue of Amida Buddha. If you remember, Amida Buddha or Amitabha Buddha represents the spiritual body, if you may say it, of the Buddha, and Amida Buddha is the main godlike savior in one of the Buddhist sects of Japan. It is called Pure Land, and those who believe in Pure Land believe that this Pure Land, which is similar to our idea of heaven, exists somewhere on the spiritual level of existence, and this Pure Land is accepting pretty much anyone and everyone who believes in the benevolent spirit of Amida Buddha or Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha Buddha is in charge of this Pure Land. So this statue is a commemoration or a celebration of Amida Buddha. With a height of 11.4 meters, it is the second tallest bronze Buddha statue in Japan, surpassed only by the statue in Nara's Todaiji Temple. And later on I will show you the statue in Nara. Originally located inside a large temple hall, the Buddha has been standing in the open air since the late 15th century. Keeps standing. Now here we come to the Todaiji Temple of Nara. As I told you, Japan had three capitals during various periods of its history. So Nara was the first capital, then Kyoto was the second capital, and Tokyo is the third capital. So frankly, Nara was the most interesting city we visited. Tokyo is much more modern, and it looks like every modern city. Kyoto is interesting, but Nara has this sense of traditional medieval Japan. So Nara holds this famous Todaiji Temple, or the Great Eastern Temple. It is one of Japan's most famous and historically significant temples and the landmark of Nara. Todaiji Temple was founded in the 8th century as the head temple of all provincial Buddhist temples of Japan. The Emperor Shomu, the 45th Emperor of Japan, ordered, and he did this order so that Buddha could protect the country and its people from natural disasters and epidemics. Now, let me remind you that Buddhism came to Japan later than it came to China. Buddhism came to China in the 1st century of the Christian era, and it entered Japan around 5-6 centuries later. So therefore, this temple is very important because it was probably the first temple that marked the establishment of Buddhism in Japan. Now, the statue that you see on the left is not the main statue of the Buddha. Around 1,360 wild deer are living around the temple. I saw many deers there. I fed them. They are very friendly. And they are said to be the messengers of the Shinto deity enshrined at Kasuga Shrine located on the nearby hill, and thus have been regarded as sacred animals for a long time. Today, they are designated as a national natural monument and are protected under the Cultural Properties Protection Law. This is the entrance into Todaiji Temple of Nara, the most important temple. This is just the entrance. And this is the main temple, the Great Buddha Hall, Daibutsu Zen, Daibutsu Den. It is enormous. The construction is very sophisticated, looks very beautiful. Todaiji's main hall, the Daibutsu Den, houses one of Japan's largest bronze statues of the Buddha. So here is the statue on your right side. It is 15 meters tall. The 15 meters tall seated Buddha represents Vairochana, a celestial Buddha who is often interpreted as the bliss body of the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. Now, this refers to the so-called three bodies of the Buddha, if you remember this concept from studying Mahayana branch of Buddhism. Remember that in Mahayana, Buddha was deified. In Theravada, in the earliest form of Buddhism, Buddha was seen as a human being, natural but extraordinary. He was not God. He did not talk about God. He did not talk about himself as being God or God-like. In Mahayana Buddhism, that developed much later, around 6 centuries after the Buddha himself, in Mahayana Buddhism, the Buddha, the figure of the Buddha was deified, and Mahayana Buddhists distinguish the so-called three bodies of the Buddha. This has nothing to do with the Christian Trinity. It is a different kind of idea, and according to Mahayana Buddhists, our historical Buddha was one of the manifestations of those three bodies of the Buddha. So the first body is the physical body. It is called the body of the manifestation body. And all the Buddhas have different physical bodies. The second body is the body of bliss. That's what the statue represents. Now, the bliss body may be compared to what we would call a spiritual body. Spiritual body. According to Mahayana Buddhism, every Buddha has his own physical body, and every Buddha has his own spiritual body. So this is, again, the manifestation of the spiritual body of the Buddha. And finally, the third and most important body of the Buddha is the essential body. That's what Mahayana Buddhists call the Buddha nature. Now, while the physical body and the spiritual body are different for each Buddha, the essential body is the same. It is the center of their enlightenment. It expresses the Buddha nature, and in Mahayana Buddhism, it becomes the main goal of enlightenment for Mahayana followers. So when the Tibetan Book of the Dead, for example, describes what people see after they die, the first thing they see is the light, the primary light. And Mahayana Buddhists identify this primary light with the essential body of the Buddha. In Chinese, Korean, and Japanese Buddhism, Vairochana, I think it is pronounced Vairochana, but maybe Vairocana, is also seen as the embodiment of the Buddhist concept of emptiness. So this is the statue of the Great Buddha in Todaiji Temple in all of its beauty. Now we are moving to downtown Tokyo, to the third and present capital of Japan, to see how Buddhism and Shinto are compartmentalized and are living together in peace and harmony. So the concept of compartmentalization is characteristic not only of Japan but of many other Asian countries. And according to the concept of compartmentalization, each religion serves a certain purpose within the religious traditions of the countries. For example, in China, Confucianism is about politics and education. If you want, in previous pre-communist China, if you want to have an official position, you have to study at the university, Imperial University, and the subject of study will be Confucianism. If you would like to do some rituals that are connected with nature and with harvest in China, it may be Taoism. And the burials, funerals, would be given to Buddhism because neither Confucianism nor Taoism teach about reincarnation. So that's what compartmentalization of religion looks like in practice. You may be Confucius in your education and in your career. You may be Taoist in your response to nature, and you may be Buddhist when it comes to burial. Now, similar things are happening in Japan, although there is no Confucianism there, and the role of Taoism, meaning the connection with nature, is served by Shinto. But again, Buddhism and Shinto coexisted for centuries in Japan without any religious wars or controversies. Now, how did this happen? Historically, this happened because Japanese invented the so-called Jinguzhi system, meaning that they incorporated into religious constructions both the Buddhist temple and the Shinto shrine. So you enter into the sacred space and you can either go to the Buddhist temple or you can go to the shrine or you can visit both. It's like a religious mall. When you enter the mall, you may, ideally, I think it is a great idea, a religious mall where you can visit any religious ceremony and religious temple. So you have a synagogue, and right near the synagogue you have the church and the mosque, etc., etc. Unfortunately, those kind of constructions are non-existent yet, but I think it is a good idea, and Japan may be seen as the pioneer of such an approach. So I will show you this kind of Buddhist Shinto religious complex that is placed in Center City in Tokyo. This is I cannot even say whether this is Buddhist or Shinto. Let me move forward. So this is Tokyo Buddhist Temple. It is huge, and it stands right after you enter the complex. Look on the right side you have some Japanese characters. We obviously may not read it, but just remember them because that's how you will see where the Shinto shrine is located. Now, this is the Buddhist temple, and if you move inside, this is the inside view. And not only this is a Buddhist temple, but this is a Buddhist temple that performs services. So look at those monks during the service where I was there. So the Buddhist temple is not just a museum, it is a working temple for Buddhist monks. Visitors are allowed, but not inside the very sacred place where the monks are. And here you see on the left side, you see again those things, I don't know, those kind of capsules with Japanese writing. So the entrance into the Shinto shrine is right near the temple. It's on the right side from the temple. And when you enter the shrine, you see, well, unfortunately, construction was going on, but out of the two buildings, the left one is actually the shrine. So when you move closer to the shrine, you see this special place. It is located right near the shrine. And the purpose of this place is that you have to wash your hands. There are some special things with which you wash your hands before you approach the kamis. And here I am. Since then, I lost about 10 kilograms, so I'm not as fat as in that picture. But washing hands before worship is required for anyone. And after you do that, you move on to the shrine. You see a white-haired man praying to the kamis. And the last slide is what this Shinto shrine looks like from the inside.